Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another quilt block for you. This one is called Wyoming Valley, and here is the block. So I think it's pretty. This is not the easiest block to do because there's a lot of pieces and there's a lot of points to match. I would call this an intermediate block, though I don't think it would be an advanced block. I've used 4 different colors plus the cream background, and we're using half square triangles, flying geese units, and square and square units. So those are all units that I've used quite a bit in all of my videos in the past several years. It's been almost 8 years now. So it's a little over 7 years. So it's been 7 years. So that's quite a few flying geese units and such. So anyway, I hope you'll stay with me and I'll show you how to make the Wyoming Valley block. Okay, here are the fabrics that you need to make the Wyoming Valley block. For A, you're going to need 1 4.5-inch square. B is 4 2.5-inch squares. C is 2 3-inch squares. D is 4 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles. E is 8 2.5-inch squares. F is 4 3-inch squares. G is 4 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles. H is 4 3-inch squares. I is 4 2.5-inch squares, and J is 8 2.5-inch squares. Now these two are the same, I'm sure you noticed that, but these J squares you're going to want to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side, and the E's you don't need to do that. These are the corner pieces. You'll also need to draw diagonal lines on the wrong side of the B squares and the E squares and the H squares. We're going to start out by making half square triangles with the C and the H squares, and we have 2 C squares and we have 4 H squares. So we're going to take 2 of these H squares and use them, and we're going to save these 2 for the next set of half square triangles. And we're going to put these right sides together and then sew 1/4 inch away from both sides of that drawn line. So I'm going to chain piece these together here. And swing around and sew the other side. Okay, let's cut those apart. And I'm going to cut on the drawn line. And now I need to trim these down to 2.5 inches square, and I'm going to use my Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer for that. So this is trimmer A. And I'm just going to line my seam line with a 2.5-inch line here, and then trim on both sides. There we go. And I'll do that on all 4. Now I'm going to press and I'll trim off the dog ears, and then these will be all ready. The next set of half square triangles I need are made with the F and the H squares. So I'll do the same thing I did, just finished. Okay, so we have 4 sets of these, and I'm going to do the same thing, cut on the drawn line, and then I'll trim them and then press. Okay, so now I need to sew these together to make 4 patch units with I-squares. So we're going to start with the I-square and the F and the H squares, which are these. And we're going to orient them all the same direction. So they're going to face this direction, and then these I-squares are going to go here. So I'm going to sew these together, and we've got 4 of these. So I'm going to put, we have 8 half square triangles and we have 4 I-squares. So I'm going to put 4 of these half square triangles and set them aside because I'll use them in the next step. So we're sewing an I-square to 4 of these half square triangles. And I'm going to press towards the I-square. Okay, so here are the units that we have here. And then we need to sew the other 4 half square triangles to these half square triangles. So they're going to go this way. I have to figure this out. And they're going to go like this. Like that. So I'm going to sew all of those together, and I'm going to nest the seam as those diagonal seams. I'm going to nest them together. Okay, now I want to press these. Okay, so there are those, and so now we need to put them together, and they're going to go like this. So we're going to put the 2 pink triangles facing each other. Just nest that seam together. And then nest the diagonal seam down here also. Okay, so I could show you a little clearer. We want to nest these 2 seams and then these 2 diagonal seams together. And you can pin these, or you can finger press them, or finger pin them, I guess I should say. And that's got a little bit there I needed to trim off. Okay, so I'm going to press these and we can look at them. Here are those units. So now we need to make some flying geese units, and we need J squares and we need D triangles. And if you want, you can draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of the squares, or you can do what I'm doing and just follow the tape here on your machine if you're using diagonal seam tape, or I use glow line tape. These are low tack tape, so it won't hurt the machine. And just going to follow that edge of the tape on the diagonal here. And we're going to make 4 flying geese units. Okay, I'm just going to clip these apart. And now I'm going to trim the corner off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to press these out. Okay, now I'm going to sew a square to the opposite sides and doing the same thing. Going from the middle, top middle to the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, now I'm going to clip these apart and trim that corner and press, and then we'll have 4 flying geese units. So 4 flying geese units. So now I need to make flying geese units with the G rectangles and the E squares. Okay, more. Okay, now I need to trim and press, and we'll have flying geese units done. So here's the other set of flying geese units. Okay, so now we need to sew these together, and we're going to put this set on the bottom, this set on the top. We're going to put the colors together, so we'll have that. And this is where a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance will come in handy. And so what we have is that. So we have 4 of those. So I'm going to press, and I'm going to press towards this unit here. Okay, so we have 4 of these units. Okay, now I need to make the square and a square unit with the A square and the B squares. And I'm going to do these the same way I did the flying geese unit, as far as sewing from corner to corner. So from this corner to this corner. And I'm going to use my tape again. And you can draw a diagonal line on your B squares if you want, and follow that. I'm going to take a couple stitches here and then line up my fabric pieces here. Now I'm going to swing this around to the opposite corner and do the same thing. Let's trim these off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it looks like this at this point. Then I'm going to sew squares to the other 2 corners too. Okay, now let me trim these corners. So here we go. There's a square and a square unit. Okay, so we have all our units here, and I'm going to start with the center unit, which is the square and a square unit. And then I'm going to go around with flying geese units. Going to go on each side, just like that, and then the corner units, and the blue triangle is going to face in. Okay, so there's the layout. I'm going to sew the units into rows, and then I'll sew all the rows together, and then we'll have the block done. Okay, I'm going to sew the first 2 pieces of each row together. And I'm going to pin these units here. I'm going to match up the points, and I'm going to place a pin in here at each point. And make sure it's perpendicular, and then remove the pin and pin together, and then sew this unit together. Okay, then we'll do the next 2. We have points to match on this one too. So I'll do the same thing. I'm putting a pin through the point here, through the back, so it comes out the front. So the pin's going through this point, and then I'm going to put it through this point here on this unit. That just lines everything up. And make sure the pin is perpendicular. Hold the fabrics together, remove the pin, and then pin the 2 together. behind, and I have points here. So lots of points on this one. But if you use this method where you're pinning the points together here, it should turn out well. And once again, I have points and seams to match, so I'm going to do lots of pinning. Okay, let's look at these 2 rows. Okay. So here we go. There's those 2 rows, and they look pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and pin these 2 together. Okay. All right, so here is the bottom row on now. So I'm going to press and then we'll look at the block. Okay, here is the completed block, and I think it turned out pretty well. Now I would call this an intermediate block. For one thing, it has a lot of pieces, and for another thing is you have lots of points to match within this block. So I would call it an intermediate because of that. But if you take your time and do that pinning method to match up your points, I think you could do this even if you're not an experienced quilter. So I think this is one that you might want to give a try. Okay, that is it for the Wyoming Valley block. Here it is. I think it turned out pretty well. I really like the colors in this line. It's a fall, kind of a fall look, in my opinion. It's different than what I've been doing the past couple years, so I just felt I needed a change, and with fall coming up, I thought this would be something nice to try. I hope you'll give this block a try. And if you like this video, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.